from the sun to bring electricity back to the island. Ready to leave Earth? Buckle up! To space to visit the sun. All aboard the rocket twin. Hopefully you will learn enough from the sun to bring electricity back to the island. Ready to leave Earth? Buckle up! Welcome to this week's live quiz show. We're so excited to have you with us here today. My name is Eileen and I'm going to be your co-host. I'm joined in by some lovely co-hosts along with our lovely Google volunteers. I have just some announcements to make with you. For everyone who's joining us on YouTube, we also are streaming through our Twin app. That way you can compete to win some Roblox this week. If you download the app on the QR code that you see on your screen and then go into our app and click join now on our live quiz show, you'll be able to compete alongside with us and then win some amazing prizes for the top 3 people on our leaderboard. Again, we're really pleased to be giving Roblox Robux for our top 3 winners. For all of our YouTube subscribers, be sure to join in. You have a couple of minutes before we actually start with the quiz show, but while we're waiting for you to join us, I'm going to ask my lovely co-hosts to introduce themselves. I'm going to ask Lincoln to first introduce himself. Lincoln, how are you doing today? Oh, you're on mute though.
I'm doing very good.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're coming from?
So I'm coming from, I think, Richmond Road. I live with my family of 4 or 5. If I count my dog, it's 5. And I have a sister, and that's about me.
So your sister joined in 2 weeks ago, Vivian, during one of our live quiz shows, right? So we're very happy to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. You're not in school right now, though. You're on break, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are you excited for school to be starting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll be able to share some interesting facts with your friends that you learned from this show today with them when school starts. So thank you for joining us. Our next co-host is Honor. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, my name is Honor. My surname is Öster. My hobbies are riding bicycle, reading books, and doing 7 as always. And I love to do things like volcanoes. I love to try new things or learn new things. And I have a lot of experience in batch programming. And batch programming can help computer, and you can help your computer fix itself like CPGs can now. And I have experience in Python programming too.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot of talent and skills that you have right now.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a
I'm
little
going,
computer programmer amongst us then. That's
yeah.
very nice. So you must know that the Twin app has a bunch of projects that you might be interested in. When you said the volcano, I immediately thought of one of our DIY projects where we make volcanoes using a couple of really simple ingredients. As you see on your screen right now, like right now it's circled adventures, and we have adventures exactly that video that you saw. But on the left of that, you see challenges. That's a great place for you to even start doing some of your own computer programming. We have a couple of coding challenges, activities there. So yeah, go ahead, owner.
I will say two things about this 7 app. First, in the challenges and new things have added for Roblox players. It's
Mm.
Trivia Roblox. They ask you questions like what's not real in Adopt Me game. And I'm not playing Roblox. I was just think you can earn Robux if you play this. So I open it. The first question is I tell it to you as always. Okay. The question I saw the question. I'm not playing Roblox all the time, but what will I do? I don't know the answer. I quit
I think
and then I broke.
you can try computer questions maybe, Onur. I think you will do better in that. And you
Yeah, can you
with
add
your,
it?
of course it is added. You can just, you need to check. Just go to the trivia and explore the other categories. And I think you are blinking to Adriana and Ivan. So they are from Google, as you know. Maybe they can introduce themselves too, so that you can know more about what is like to work in Google. Okay, maybe we
Okay.
can continue
And
with
by the
Adriana.
way,
Yeah.
my second thing is when application has a bug, like a trick to get free twin coin.
Okay,
There are
honor.
missions like clapping missions.
Honor, I'm gonna interrupt you real
Add
quick
it.
because
And
that's
these
wonderful.
clapping missions.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for letting us know. As a content developer, it's my job to know all about the Twin app.
No,
So
that's
thank you
not the
so much.
problem.
But
I am
I'm
not
gonna
saying
ask,
to
I'm gonna
remove
kindly ask
clapping
that
missions.
maybe I'm gonna
I'm
kindly
saying
ask that maybe we hear a little bit from our Google co-hosts because their time is so precious and we're so excited to
okay.
have them with us. And maybe we can learn a little bit from them. So maybe Adriana, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. Hi, everyone. And I'm very happy to be here and to talk to you today. So I'm Adriana. I work for Google, actually in London. That's where I live, and that's also where I work for Google. I've been in Google for 10 years, and I spent a lot of time across different businesses in Google, including sort of our advertising business, also looking after YouTube, and then Google Play, where you're downloading your applications, as well as right now in the area where we're making devices like phones and Google Homes. I am from Romania, and actually I tell people I am from Romania and from Transylvania. And then when I say that, the question that I get from everyone is, are the vampires real? Is Dracula real? So you can ask me that later. I will stop here for now and handing over to you.
Okay.
Yes, Yvonne.
Hi everyone. Hi. Yeah, equally super excited to be here. Great opportunity to meet all of you. Talk about Python. I wish I could tell you more, but it sounds like Oda knows a thing or two more than I do. I tried my luck, but it's not easy. I think I'm stuck at HTML. But I think equally to Adriana, I've been with Google for about 10 years. I've been working in different parts of the business. Advertising, I was at a company called Nest, which was acquired by Google. And I'm currently in the devices and services team, where one of my core roles, core responsibilities is launching new products. So thinking about how we launch new hardware products into new markets, and how do we make sure that we have success with our partners that sell our products. So yeah, really looking forward to this show, and looking forward to learning something new as well, which is always really, really important.
Well, we appreciate you guys being with us today. Very excited to see what we'll learn with everyone along with us on the Twin app and on YouTube. So saying that, oh, and we have one more person, of course, Jihan. He's on here every week, so I always forget to have him introduce himself, but it would be a shame not to. So Jihan, how about a little bit from you?
Yes, last week was quite busy from our end in Twin, because we are developing new features and new content every week, and we are getting ready to launch our new educational materials, and they are like adventures, and they will start on September. So we are kind of busy with that, and I am excited as always to like talk a little bit about science, nature, and discuss the real life applications of different technologies along with our Google volunteers. So, and also I'm really curious about what Lincoln and Honor get to say about the topics of today, because they look pretty interesting, Eileen. So I think we can start.
Yep, definitely. So everyone who hasn't joined in yet, be sure to join in on the Twin app, but we're going to start now. So I just have maybe one instruction for everyone joining in on the Twin app for the first time. So you're going to see some videos and some questions pop up onto your screen, and we have all multiple choice. Try to click on the one that you think is the most correct, and then after all 5 questions, you'll know whether or not you're on the top 5 or top 3 of our leaderboard. You're going to see questions just like this on your screen. Again, you can pick A, B, C, or D, whichever you think is the most correct, and you have about 15 seconds or 19 seconds, 20 seconds to answer them. So be sure to click them as fast as you can. And saying that, I think we're ready for our first question. So right now we have a lovely photo for you guys, and we are going to be asking you about something called camouflage. And we were talking about this before the show and everything, but for anyone who doesn't know what camouflage is, Lincoln, do you think you can explain to our viewers what camouflage might mean?
So camouflage means, so like a chameleon, it can, when it's scared, like a predator's chasing it, it can go into like a leaf and camouflage into it and turn green, and the predator will just go past them.
Yeah, that's a great example. So a chameleon has camouflaging capabilities. So that just means blending into your environment. And it's a special ability. I don't have it, but we have ways of blending into our environment. So maybe like types of clothing help us humans camouflage into things. But our question is a little bit about what we're looking at right now. Like, what is camouflaging? So I'm going to just ask right away, which of these is using camouflage in this photo? Is it A, a spider? Was it B, a lizard? C, a butterfly? Or D, an orchid? So out of all of those things, try thinking about what we saw in that photo. Does anyone have a clue? Yes, Lincoln?
I think it's an orchid.
That's a very good guess. Why do you think it's an orchid?
Because it didn't look like a spider or a butterfly or a lizard.
But looks can be deceiving. We've learned that certain animals and plants have the ability to camouflage and look like things that they're not. So is it a trick question, or do you want to stick with your answer?
I'm going to stick, because butterflies, I don't think they can camouflage, or spiders or lizards.
Well, but a chameleon's a lizard.
Could be, but I'm sticking
I'm
to
gonna let you think about that. While you're thinking about it, I'm gonna ask Owner. He has his hand up.
I think it is not an orchid because maybe it's a bug on an orchid, walking orchids. We don't know.
And Ivan, you had a clue.
Yeah, my observation is just that it looks very perfectly symmetric shaped, right? It almost looks too good to be true in a way. So
Yeah,
it makes me a little bit suspicious.
The right position of symmetric. Yeah.
So it's too perfect maybe to be like an animal, but you were thinking, so you're leaning kind of where Lincoln's going, an orchid perhaps?
Yeah, I think so.
It looks like you guys are correct. For all our viewers out there, it is an orchid. And this orchid, there's many orchids out in the world. I think in our one of our previous shows,
I haven't seen an orchid like this.
Yeah, this one's a special orchid. This one, there's certain orchids that they're just, you see in the grocery market and they're beautiful and they look pretty and they don't camouflage. But these orchids have special camouflaging abilities. What do you think it's trying to do? Like, what's the purpose of its camouflaging? Why would it want to be camouflaged?
Because when its enemy animals found it, they want to eat it. So there's one way to hide itself from the eating animals from it. Camouflaging. In the camouflaging, animals maybe can see or can see, but most of them don't saw camouflaging animals. So it's a trick. And also it's a trick to eat animals too.
Okay, that's a really good.
I saw and it's in a book.
I see. So Lincoln, you have something to say. How about you?
Because if it lives near humans, they can pick to them, and they probably would want to camouflage into green, and don't be quick picked up because because they would if the bottom of the bit, if it gets picked up, they can use it for decoration. That's why they can pick them up.
That's a really good guess too. I mean, so you're saying that maybe these orchids got this capability to camouflage themselves, but also as like a protection against us humans?
If I saw this orchid, can you turn to the back page?
Would you pick it up if you saw this orchid?
I saw this orchid, I would take off the top, the symmetric thing. I will take that because it's really good.
Do you want to hear why, or like what this orchid's called and why it's even camouflaged? I've got some interesting information. So this
it must be a bug because bugs camouflaging. And why a flower don't want to why a flower wants to camouflage? Bees collect pollen on it and then their numbers are very thin.
Okay, so
I'm gonna up and up, and
so Owner, I'm gonna quickly explain this. So that was a really good explanation, but just like a quick wrap up, this orchid looks like it has a bee on it, and the reason why is maybe not because it's trying to make us not pick it, but it's because it's trying to attract more bees. If the orchid has a bee on it already, other bees will be attracted to it. So they want to encourage other bees to come to it because bees are important pollinators. It makes it so other flowers can get pollinated so they can grow other places, and that way bees collect pollen to make honey. So that's the reason why it's camouflaging. It's not so much as a protective thing, but more of a thing to attract other bees to itself like that. So exactly what you see here, it has like a smiling face, it's got a bee on
Wow.
it.
Wow. Wow, it's really cool, Eileen. So I've never seen like this type of plant, orchid, to say, but the plant is tricking the bees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that for? To like to increase number of orchids all around.
Yeah, so these plants somehow came up with like a strategy to attract bees so it could like spread its seeds of its pollen around. It's a really smart way of spreading its pollen. You know, it's just like uh, some some plants maybe exude a certain scent to attract things. Other ones have this visual camouflage that makes it look like there's already a bee on there, so it attracts bees. So it's just one of those wonderful things in nature that you see, like a strategy that they use to increase their chances of survival and repopulation. So I have a very interesting question next. So I suggest maybe we can move on to the next question. But if you're interested in orchids, be sure to search up this orchid, the bee orchid. It's very cool. So we have a video here. Lincoln, do you think you can describe what's in this video? What kind of animals are here?
Basically, it's dolphins jumping up and down from the water, going somewhere or running away from something.
Mm-hmm. And where do dolphins usually live? Like what kind of waters?
In the ocean, I don't think it's salty.
Yeah. So the majority of dolphins live in the ocean salty waters. There's kind of very few freshwater dolphins. You don't really find them in lakes or rivers, but really large oceans. What other um, animals like do we find that are similar to dolphins in the oceans? Yeah, Lincoln?
You can find turtles, fish, loads of animals, and also pink dolphins. I think they live in salty rivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a quick question about like what kind of animal is this is a dolphin? Is it a fish? Is it a reptile? I know someone, I think owner maybe thought it was a fish, if I guess correctly. So what do you kind of animal do you think a dolphin is?
I think it's I don't think it's a fish. I think it's like I think it eats meat, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you think that, okay. So owner, do you have a quick idea?
I think it is a part of mammals.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good guess. So it is a mammal. So I have a question about mammals. Maybe we can go straight into the question and then while we're discussing it, we'll figure out why it's a mammal. Why
Well,
is it a mammal?
I just correct the end of the question. I just correct. Well,
Yeah, you guess correct. So which of the following is true about the reproduction of marine mammals like dolphins? So is it A, they give birth to their young? Is it B, they reproduce by laying eggs? C, they reproduce by dividing? Or D, they do not reproduce? So essentially, this question is about figuring kind of the characteristic of a mammal. What makes mammals different from maybe fish, like, or reptiles or plants? So does anyone have a clue? Lincoln?
I'm thinking it does not produce because I haven't seen it before. So I think they don't produce.
Maybe we can get some help from one of our Google role models. They might have some information. Adriana, do you have an idea maybe of what mammal characteristics are like that will help us answer this?
So I think maybe Lincoln or Honor can think of that. I think it's important to think about how the babies from these animals are what how do they, you know, how are they born? And maybe you haven't seen one, but think about it. You say it's a mammal. Like, what other animals are mammals? Do you have an example? And then where how, like, is there anything similar between the babies of a mammal maybe that lives on land and a dolphin? What do you think?
Let's see. What does this whale doing in here? Like, Onur, can you describe what you see in the picture, in the video? This one.
I've seen a whale.
And
It's
what happened? What happened now?
it takes the water out of its body to outside.
Yeah, it is like spraying out, right? It is like spraying the water
Yeah.
out because
If I were a dolphin, I would do this a few more times, especially in hot weathers. So the hot would be gone for me. That's a good.
yeah, I would love to stick around with you while you are doing this in the hot weather. But what it is doing is actually it is spraying out water, but it is because of it is breathing out from its hole, and while he breathes out, he also sprays out the water that is inside of the hole. Okay, so like us, they do breathe, and sometimes they go up to breathe and then they go under the water again. And like us, again, like humans, like people, like humans, they also, what do you see in this picture now, Onur? They also,
Is this a shark?
no.
This is still a whale.
Yeah.
But what is this whale doing? You have a baby whale and a mama whale. What would
I
this?
think it is like it's doing a thing like hugging, or he is drinking a mommy milk.
Yeah, so it is drinking milk. So just like a baby would, you know, a human baby or like any other animals that we see on like our farms, they're drinking milk. So we just found out two things about mammals. They breathe, you know, through lungs. So they don't have gills. It's not a fish. They're not fish. Dolphins are not fish. And they drink milk. So how are other animals born? So like we're mammals, humans are mammals. Just like Adriana was saying, we need to think about other things around us, other mammals around us. How are other mammals born?
So, can I tell the answer?
If you think you know the answer, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. I will go ahead by information. First of all, B is definitely no. They reproduce by laying eggs. That's false. The reputation about mammals, because mammals don't lay eggs. They are born from mummies thing, like body parts.
Exactly. So they're given birth to. So A is the correct answer. Very good job. So we just learned three important characteristics of what it means to be a mammal. You breathe and you have lungs.
The C choices, they reproduce by diving. You can born a baby by diving. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So there's other organisms out there that they can reproduce by dividing. So certain types of starfish, maybe if you cut them in half, one half turns into another starfish, the other one turns into other starfish. We can't do that. Mammals can't do that. But yeah, so A is the correct answer. Like I was saying, we breathe, we have lungs, so we're mammals, we live on land. So Jihan, it's kind of interesting that we have mammals living underwater. How did that come to be? Like,
Yeah,
how's
it
that
is.
possible?
Like when I was when I didn't know that like whales and dolphins are mammals, like when I first learned that, I was really curious about that question, Eileen. And then if you make a research, you know that like there are some animals going to the earth from water. Okay, we know that like life started inside of the water, and some of the animals decided to like go to earth and they start breathing, and the evolution continued on land as well. But one crazy guy you see here, Lincoln, uh, what does it look like, this crazy animal?
It kind of looks like a T-Rex.
T-Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like maybe a mouse with legs. It looks like a
I
dog.
know this name. It is, but I forget. We discovered it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's, but when I saw this, I think it is a dinosaur and a bear and a mouse mixed
Yeah,
together.
so
Like,
because it is
and
the,
a brown mouse.
yeah, and because it is the ancestor of most of the animals on land and inside of the sea. So when it enters to sea, he doesn't have like, it doesn't have any force called gravity. I mean, of course there is gravity inside of the sea as well, but it is way less than you have on land, and it got bigger, and for 40-50 million years it got bigger and evolved and turned into a whale. And what is this? What is this bone, Lincoln? Do you see this bone?
Yeah.
So let's rewind, like go backwards and see what was that bone before, like 40-50 million years ago. You see this
I
bone?
won't get close to whales anymore.
Yeah, so so the,
They're kind of weird.
yeah,
What's this turning into?
yeah,
And
so
then the whales will turn into another whale kind, or
mhm.
another, or the old one,
Yes.
or fossil.
Yeah, so like the interesting thing about evolution is that it always surprises you, and you can find the like common ancestors if you look like if you have an if you look with curious eyes, you always find the common ancestors. Yes, Eileen.
I wish I will be a dolphin. I will.
Yeah.
A whale. I will be a weird thing. Then I will turn into a whale. I will swim directly anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime I want. And
that is
I
my
will
dream
be
as
a
well.
sea house.
Definitely.
Actually, I think Jihan's favorite animal is a dolphin. But before, like, I think in another word that you use for weird, I would say amazing, because something to evolve from a land animal into a marine mammal, like a marine animal, and then to adapt to its environment shows extreme surviving like capabilities. And so that bone that Jihan was talking about, that's actually a bone that doesn't get used anymore because it used to have legs. Now it doesn't need any legs. You don't walk underwater. Now you need kind of like something like a tail. But they have bones there anyways, and it shows us that bone is actually evidence that it used to have legs, that it used to be land animals. So that's just a really cool way of understanding like all their ancestors came from land, and that we once upon a time came from water and we evolved this way. So it's very cool. Marine animals, marine mammals in particular, are very, very interesting to study. And if you ever want to, marine biology, for example, is a great thing to look into later on in life. But saying that, it's time for our next question. I know all of our watchers are eager to see what we have next so they can win their Roblox Robux. So maybe we can ask, what do you think we're looking at right now? Like, Lincoln, you had a very interesting guess when I asked you to look at this picture at first. What did you say it was? What did you think it was?
A
I
temple,
Um,
drawing on a temple from the old times, like when those people that live in the sand desert.
Mm-hmm. So like a very old type of form of writing, maybe not something that we use today. Okay, owner, do you maybe have an idea what it might be? Have you ever seen this type
I
of writing or
think
even know
it
its
is
name?
an text from 19.
Nice.
No, 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 not 19. It's from 9. It's from 18th or 17th. Yeah, 17th. Because or 1,000,000 years ago. Because too old.
It is really old, maybe not that old. That's a very long time. But I
Yeah.
can give you a guess. It's probably gonna be more like thousands of years old, like specifically 4 or 5 thousand years old, not a million years. But that's actually when the first forms of writing were started. And I actually have a question related to this about this text. So what was the first forms of writing used for? So like essentially, why was writing even started? For what purposes? Is it A, telling stories, B, teaching history, C, counting and accounting, or D, writing down laws?
I'm about to laugh in this choice. Okay.
Telling stories,
Yeah, definitely.
because you don't need to really tell stories. You can like just do it on phone now, or someone can just tell you one, like make one up.
But think about this. Why was right? So we would be talking about the very first writings, that text that we saw ancient. Like we were asking back then, why do you think the people, 4 or 5 thousand years ago wanted to write down stuff? So telling stories, it could be like you can tell stories. There's this thing called oral history where you tell stories to your kids and they tell that story to their kids. So maybe you don't need to write it down. It could just be living memory. So it could still be A is the wrong answer.
And by the way, telling stories don't make an effect for writing. But if you write stories, then it would make an effect to writing. But
It's
telling
important.
stories don't make an effect. It doesn't.
Well, like I was saying, oral history is very important. So telling stories is still very important in our culture and how we remember things. So I would say, I would challenge that and say it does have an effect, but writing down stories is really important. So maybe we can talk about like what maybe these people's priorities were for that 5,000 years ago. Like what was really important to them. Back then, they didn't have technology really to do stuff to make their lives easier. But what was the most important was collecting food. Like
I
you
think
see
in
here.
this photo, they're making a castle.
No, well, they're actually they're picking wheat. They're getting crops. They're
They're building.
stuff from their farms and everything. So
They're
back
building
then,
something.
they had less time to write stories and spend their time doing maybe fun activities like reading and writing, but they were more concerned about getting food, collecting it, saving it for next year, making sure everyone had food for the next coming years. So saying that if we wanted to look at options again. What do you think writing was first used for? Lincoln?
Writing down laws, because if there's no laws still today, then people could do anything they want and not go to prison, and that'll be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if I think about this, it's I think it has to do with the fact that we can't remember unlimited amounts of data, right? At the end of the day, there's so many things that we can remember and other things we can't remember, but we want to be able to recall and remember those things. And I think, if I think back at this time, there's probably not everyone that was writing, as you said, Jian, is quite difficult. Like, you got to get those symbols and the stones. So it's probably those people that were, managing, the fields and things like this, that had to keep track of what's going on, so that they don't have to remember every single thing about their business. So I think that's, and I think what's also interesting perhaps is that they may have been the only ones that could actually read it, right? So they, perhaps you're a worker and you've done your day's work and there's someone that's writing it down for you, but you may not have the actual capability and knowledge to actually read whether what this person is writing down is correct, right? So this is quite interesting, because it just wasn't common for everyone to read and write.
Yeah, so how complicated is your guys' jobs? Like, Adriana, when you're coordinating with somebody and you're trying to figure out numbers, markets, like data and everything like that, like how complicated is it to understand like big picture what's going on when you're trying to get a product out somewhere, or trying to understand a market, or even where your products are coming from? Because like a chip might be coming from like Silicon Valley, California, but the battery might be coming somewhere else. Like how do you deal with everything and all of that information?
Well, everything today is interconnected. As you said, there is, like, if you look at your computer or if you look at your phone, probably every single component that goes into it comes from a different part of the world. But our engineers, they need to bring it all together, and they need to order the different parts. They all are getting shipped to one factory where they're all put together. And then from there, they're going to be shipped to different countries where people are looking for, let's say, those phones to buy, to purchase, right? And in order to know to which countries to ship, you need to have orders from people, right? So what do? We can go online, we see a phone that we like, and then we decide to buy on the internet, or we go into a shop, we see something we like, or we are asking our parents to buy something we like. So there is a lot of information that is required in order to know how many phones should you produce, and also who needs them, and how many should you send to Turkey or to England or to Japan or to Canada. So all of this information today is communicated between people through computers, through phones, but actually, where does it live, this information, right? And today, this information is not even stored anymore in our computers. All of this world's information that we're exchanging is somewhere stored in what we call a cloud. And it's not a real cloud. It's not the white cloud that you see outside on a,
It's
on
like
a radio station.
Dropbox,
Yes,
your Google Drive, Google Cloud.
exactly.
That's
Exactly
like
right.
that. A special data storable like OneDrive. In Windows 11, a new property is added. You can store files on OneDrive. It's when you add some files on your desktop, it goes to OneDrive automatically.
Mm-hmm. And so imagine.
And you said yes or no at this property in the Windows yes OOB.x.
Yeah. So imagine if we were saving all of our information like we used to 4,000 years ago, all on stone tablets.
Mhm.
All of the information that we would try to store on that would take up like football fields and football fields and football, maybe too many football fields that would cover this whole world. But yeah, Adriana was saying like everything's stored in a cloud, this space kind of up there. And if you want to continue explaining, but I just had a question. Like, do you use any AI like when you're doing this? Because when I was doing this research, I found that AI now, like new technologies, things that help us coordinate information and like all of the things that you were talking about. Like, how many phones do we send to Turkey? Like, why not send all of the phones? Well, we don't have enough resources to waste and send it to places it doesn't need to be. So to protect resources and everything, like, do you have any information on like how AI can help us make things more efficient?
Well, in the example that I've given you, so how do we know in which countries to send the phones is actually something not that complicated. Because the population of the world is limited, the number of people who want a phone at any given time is limited, and we can infer that information based on data that exists in every market. However, there are other situations where there is so much information available that it's much harder to process that information in an easy way. Like, for example, count how many people would want a phone in a certain country. That's quite finite. So we use AI, artificial intelligence, in our technology, which makes complicated things a lot easier. So one example, for example, is translation, right? Imagine that you are in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, and you stop on the street and you want to ask somebody for directions, and you don't know how to say, like, how do I go to the train station in that language? But you can take your phone and you can talk to Google and say, how do I go to the train station in Chinese? And you will hear it on your phone, and the person on the street who doesn't speak your language will hear it. So this is how AI makes things simpler, because the algorithms will look for the text that you have delivered via speech, and will look for millions and millions of examples on the internet, in the cloud, and will find the matching words in that specific language. And it does that in a space of less of a second, right? You wouldn't not even notice it, and it's there in front of you, and you can communicate with a person from another country without speaking the language. So that's how AI is helping us in the day to day.
Oh, very cool.
美
And
丽
it looks like
的
Jihan had an example of translating beautiful in English to Chinese.
Yeah, of course. I love like saying beautiful. Do you want to
美
hear?
丽的
Meilida. So maybe we can look for dolphin. Do you want to hear, Onur? Dolphin in
Yes.
Chinese.
海
I
豚
saw a dream.
海
I am
豚
not. I saw a dream when the beginning of sleeping. They want to put me in jail because I did a wrong thing. I tried to explain it, but I don't know the language. I picked up my phone and opened Google Translate and write my word, then click on the speaker logo, then it speaks and they understand and they don't put me in jail. And
So
by the way, there are some
you did
applications.
you did it in your dream. You did this in your dream. So you opened the Google Translate in your dream.
Yeah, I'm using it in a few more ways. Like, I found a English text that I don't understand. I opened Google Translate and translating it. And by the way, Google's have other useful apps too.
Oh, it has a lot, like so many. Technology definitely has
Yeah.
made our lives so much easier. So now we don't have to be out in the farms getting our food every day. We actually have time to have talks like we are right now and learning a little bit more about that. So
I will say my favorite one. My favorite one is Blogger. Blogger, you create your own website.
yeah, you get to share ideas and everything. So I'm going to cut that short and go to the next question if that's all right. We have a very cool question from Roblox Illusions. And what can you tell me about this picture that you see, these two lines? Lincoln, you said that there was like an interesting feature about this like image. Do you want to share a little bit what you thought this was like?
The outside of it looks like an isosceles triangle, and it only has two sides which are equal.
Mm-hmm. So
And the yellow line and two, it's like yellow's bigger, and then two gets smaller.
do you think the outside lines, those white lines, are parallel, side by side parallel?
No.
No. Do you think that perhaps maybe because those lines aren't parallel, it affects how we see those two yellow lines?
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably. So I have a question about the size of these lines. Like you said, one is bigger than two, but maybe two is bigger than one. Like I actually had a question about which one is true about the yellow lines. So I'm gonna ask, is A, line one is longer than line two?
Yeah.
Is B,
Right.
line two is longer than line one? Or C,
Wait a minute.
is C the
Can
lines
return
are
to
the
the picture.
Onur, just a second. Wait for Eileen to finish the question. Yeah.
Thank you. Is C, the lines are the same length, or D, none of these? So it's a bit of a trick question. If you know what illusions are, they're usually meant to trick us into believing things that are really not there. So
But I found the trick.
you know what the trick is? We're gonna hold
Yeah.
on. We're gonna hold off on the answer. So if you know the trick, let's wait until our users on the Twin app have a chance to answer the questions.
Okay.
But Ethan, do you know something you can share with us that's not the answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's an isosceles, the triangle's like this, so it could be the same chance. like they're the same size.
Mm-hmm. So I have something to share with you. It's like, so the if these lines were parallel and they weren't maybe kind of going towards each other at the top of the screen, do you think we would see the lines differently? Jihan, do you actually have something that could help us visualize this?
Of course, but before that, maybe I can ask Ivan. Ivan, like, does this lines similar to something that you see in real life?
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure, but I think one of the things that we have is obviously we are generally used to seeing things in 3 dimensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so right now we're looking at a two-dimensional image, and our brain is trying to translate it into 3D,
Yeah.
and generally that's the source of the illusions that we have. So you almost have to trick your brain back to think, okay, what could it actually be? Um, so yeah, I'm not sure it reminds me of anything in real life, but it's the fact that it's an illusion, and then that I'm almost like, I'm almost inclined to say that someone's trying to trick us. So I'm almost
Yeah.
inclined to answer the opposite from my first intuition,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
that they're different lengths.
Adriana, do you have any like thing that comes to your mind?
Um,
Maybe I can give you a clue by showing this.
yes. It's like, do we think these lines are parallel, or do we think that they merge at the very end? But we know that they
Yeah.
do not merge, right? Because we ride on them every single day. If
Yeah.
we take a tram or a train, but it's the distance that tricks us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And if you look, the yellow lines, they are actually in this dimension. And I covered the white lines. And I will remove them for you here. I will delete it. So as I go up, 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 it will look like differently. So it looks like line 1 is longer than the line 2, but the real case is not like that, as we can see here. So if you like look at these railways from top, we will see that they look like this. But if we look these railways from this perspective, they look like they merge, but they cannot, because train couldn't fit inside of those railways if these lines uh, were merging at the horizon. So the right answer would be option C. The lines are at the same length. The lines are the same length. There's always it is always good to look for the second time, for check, to understand what you see. So I encourage everyone to check for the second time whether they are sure or not. Lincoln, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's so it was C because I forgot what I was gonna say.
No worries. It will appear back again. Onur, do you have anything to say about these lines?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the second one is in very large place, and the other one is in a very small place.
Mm-hmm.
So difference is they're in the same lengths, but because of they're in different place, it doesn't seem to they're in a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Definitely.
seems to they are in a different length.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, said thank for the explanation. These blanks, they it makes us think that line 2 is like smaller than line 1, but in real life we see this on railways, on roads, and we know that the distance between these lines is constant along the way, but it looks like the ones at the far away, they look smaller than the ones closer to our eyes. Let's go to the last question, Eileen, maybe, and finish the show.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So this last question is more of like a discussion question. So we can talk about this picture right here. I think, what do you think went wrong in this photo? What do you think happened? What was going on? Was this tree maybe hit by some lightning, or yes, Lincoln, do you have an idea?
So I think someone used an chainsaw, because if they'd use an axe, they would see what's in front of them, because axe takes a long time, but chainsaw is quicker. So they probably used a chainsaw and then accidentally hit the house with it, and that's what happened, I think.
Yeah, so you think it was cut because you see like a very, straight line, very clean cut, not something that you would see like if it was struck by lightning, the whole tree would kind of rip apart. It looks intentional a little bit. Maybe their intention wasn't to hit their house with it, of course, but it looks like someone was cutting the trees. So I've got like a very funny question for you. But what was wrong in that photo? Was it A, the house was too small? B, the house doesn't get any sunshine? C, they've cut the tree incorrectly? Or D, the house is too dark? And Lincoln, I think you already know the answer. I think everyone knows the answer, but you can go ahead.
I think there's two. I think it is they cut the tree incorrectly and the house is too dark, because if their house is too dark they probably couldn't have seen it.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, so maybe the reason why they were cutting the tree down was because it made the house too dark. But yes, C is correct. You gave the right answer. And when you're cutting down a tree, if you're ever cutting down a tree, helmet first, be careful.
Wait, why do you cut a tree? I mean, why do you cut a tree, Eileen?
Why would I cut down a tree? Well, there's plenty of reasons why I would cut down a tree. Like maybe the tree could be like dead or dying, and it has the risk of falling down on a person. So I would cut a tree before it does, fall on a person on accident. Or we use trees for a lot of things. A lot of our products, like paper, we use trees for. So there's plenty of reasons why I would cut down a tree, but there are only a limited number of ways of how I would cut down a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Many reasons why, but how I would I would listen to this guy right here who's actually showing there's a science to cutting down trees, so it doesn't fall on you or fall on other people or your property. So, yeah. Jihan, do you know a little bit about cutting down trees, or maybe the science of it?
Yeah, I love the trees, so I don't like cutting trees, but when it is essential, you need to do it right way. So this guy explains, and let me show you this photo first. So what he will do, he will use the chainsaw, and he will cut one side of the tree with 90 degrees, as you can see. So when you have this notch here, actually the tree will tend to fall to the left side, but still it is not enough. The tree is too long and it might fall to the right side. So in order to avoid that, we have this felling cut at the other side of the tree, and we use these wedges to push the top side to the other side. And then after using these wedges, if we continue to cut tree from this side to the right side, we will see that the tree will definitely fall down to the left side. And it is, since it is science, since it is tested, and this man shows this theory in action. And what he does, he cuts the tree at the other side, and he will use these winches, and with a hammer he will stick it inside of the tree, and that winch will actually push the top of the tree. And let's see, as you can see here, yes. So this winch, it's pushing it up, pushing the tree up, and then afterwards he gets the chainsaw again and continue cutting the tree. And at the end we see also a rope, and as you can see, he doesn't use the chainsaw now, he just used the hammer. Okay, he just hits to the winches to create force to the other side, and we see a rope here, this rope. So they are pulling the tree to the other side, and now we have a clear landing, not on the house but on the land. So it's a pretty useful method to cut the trees.
Yeah, and all of it is based on math. Like,
Yeah.
you have to know a little bit of math, know what 90 degrees is, and kind of calculating everything there. So math is very important no matter what you're doing, and it's there to ensure your safety. But I think Honor has maybe one last thing to say, and then we're almost done. I think we're
I have two things to say. First, cutting trees are bad because they generate oxygen. If we cut all of the trees, the world, all humans will die because there are no trees.
Actually,
And
Honor,
the second
let
thing
me
is
let me give you one more information about this. So trees capture carbon dioxide inside of them, right? But when they are dead, when they are dry, they start releasing the carbon dioxide back. Okay, so before they die, we need to like renew the trees. Okay, with control, we need to cut the trees, the older ones, but while doing it, we need to also plant the younger ones so that we have the forest and oxygen, and the climate will be sustainable that way. Okay, but cutting the trees at the right time is a really effective thing in terms of climate as well. But I agree with you, we should keep the trees because like last especially for last 100 years deforestation rates are really high. So we need, if we have to cut the trees, we need to do it with a controlled way. So yeah, go ahead with your second comment.
The second thing is, when you found a cut tree over somewhere. So if you found, here's an interesting fact for you. There are lines, like circle in the trees. Yeah. And these lines shows the tree's age. When you count all of them, you can learn the tree's age.
Yeah, exactly. That's really cool. Where I'm from in California, we actually have these trees called redwoods, and they're known to be some of the oldest trees that you can find. And I actually saw a tree that was older than 2,300 years old. And
Whoa.
they put markers like, the Magna Carta was signed, or Erickson discovered the Americas, and that tree was already living for many, many years before all of those things happened. So yeah, every time you see a tree that's been cut down, be sure it's like taking a very cool trip back in history. Trees live a very long time.
Okay,
Thanks for that.
let's
That
see
was
the
really interesting.
let's see
Yeah.
the results of the day, and we will announce the winners of the day. So the first one is he has a great nickname, Einstein. And the second one, she also has a great nickname, Ada Lovelace. We love her. She is the mother of algorithm, right? And the third one is TNY. I don't know, should I say tiny? But she is at the third rank. And congratulations to you guys for winning the Robuxes. And please go ahead to your profiles and write to us and claim your Robuxes right away. So what you need to do, you need to go to your profile, to do three dots at the top right side of your screen and contact us. And by starting new conversation, you can claim your Robuxes. So thank you everyone for involving, for supporting the show, for sharing your ideas and comments. So Eileen, maybe we can hear the last comments from everyone and then wrap up the show.
Yeah, of course. So, one of my favorite parts of the live quiz show is always to check in with everyone at the end and ask what their favorite parts of the show were. So, Lincoln, can I get some of your comments? Did you like the show? And if so, what parts of the show did you like best?
I liked the show, and also the best bit of the show I liked was the dolphin bit and the whales.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised to learn that they were actually land animals before they were marine animals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a really fun fact. And like, if you want to research it, I say go ahead, and try to figure out what other animals are like dolphins and whales. There's very few marine mammals out in our oceans. So it's really
Most
cool to figure out what kind of animals have adapted back to the oceans after living on land. So how about you, owner? What was your favorite?
My favorite part is the whales. It's the most interesting thing from the screen. Dolphins and whales are kind of weird animals and amazing animals, and they turn into another animal that's named whales.
Hmm. Evolution is an amazing, amazing thing. That's one of my favorite parts too, if I could add. But actually, my favorite part was maybe about like writing, why writing was first discovered, because I love reading, I love writing, but I would have thought it was used for different purposes, but it was really actually used for practical purposes. And I don't know, I like history and I like understanding how we now record our daily lives. Now we use a lot more things like texting, we use videos more, we use AI now to make our lives a little bit easier. So I always think it's cool to go back into history to understand the present. So that was my favorite part. But can I hear from Yvonne? What was your favorite part of the show?
Yeah, I think for me it was the cutting down the tree and how it was cut down. I feel like it's still a bit of a mystery what went wrong. My hypothesis here is that they when they were cutting it on the other side, they perhaps went a little bit too far, and maybe that's what caused it to fall over. But yeah, certainly I didn't know that there was a such an elaborate technique to cutting down trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that like 90-degree wedge that they had. I think they just went straight
True.
for the I'm cutting, flat, and then I think the leverage was towards the house. So, yeah.
Yeah,
What's your
I
favorite part?
love using engineering and science for prevention. I love like the appliance of science in real world always saves life. If you do
Mhm.
it in the right way by asking the conscious questions. Yeah, Adriana, what about you?
So for me, it was also the way that you cut a tree. But the reason for it is that there are so many things that we see every day around us, but we never question anymore what is the science behind it because we're just so used to see them all the time. We've seen a tree being cut. We never ask ourselves if it's complicated to do so. Um, so it just makes me think of all the things I've learned in school, and how they are being applied in day-to-day tasks. There is far more to every task than we see, and that was fascinating.
Wow, thank
Wow,
you. It was a great comment.
exactly. Yeah. And Jihan, how about you?
I loved what Adriana just actually explained, and all of the questions in here were actually related with that. We learn lots of things in class, but we never questioned the appliance of them in real life. And I love this show because of that, because it shows the appliance of science and also with a heartful mind. I mean, we use science for prevention and we use science to understand our history. We use science to not create any harm to any creature on land, right? But we use science for easing problems, like for solving problems of people, animals, and nature. Involve like being here with you motivates me and make me remember those valuable things. So thank you, Eileen, Lincoln, Adriana, Ivan, and Onur for your involvement today, for your support, and everyone who are watching us from our Twin App YouTube. Thank you as well, and bye bye until next time.
Yes, thank you. Bye. Have a
Bye.
nice evening.
Bye.
We're going to space to visit the sun. All aboard the rocket, twin. Hopefully you will learn enough from the sun to bring electricity back to the island. Ready to leave Earth?
Bye.
Buckle up.
Yes.